everyone. It's Dr. Arlene Diamco, the MultiDimensional MD. Welcome back. And today I have a very special guest, Carter Biskup, and he's a medical student. I met him earlier in March at the Cranial Academy introductory course in cranial osteopathy. And he's been interning with me for the last couple of weeks, and we had an amazing course this last weekend. The first course I had for physicians called Sensing and Releasing Emotional Shock. And this is one of the first courses of the Dig On series, exploring consciousness through osteopathy. So I know all of you get to hear from me a lot, but I thought that it would be really great to back up and get a medical student's perspective on being able to perceive certain things for the first time, introducing into cranial osteopathy, concepts that he's learned over the last couple of weeks and over this weekend. It was phenomenal. And I know that more than just physicians could get so much out of this. So thank you so much, Carter, for being here.
Thank you. I am just incredibly honored and grateful to be here as well, learning from such an amazing instructor who knows so deeply about so many things. So I just have so much gratitude to be here.
Thank you. Well, tell me, how did you start on your journey? Like, what brought you to cranial osteopathy and even osteopathy in general? Because a lot of people aren't even familiar with that. So how did you know about it?
Right. I think that it would be helpful if I just kind of painted the backdrop of, my childhood, how I went to med school and how I went to a DO med school, which is a doctor of osteopathy med school, and then how I got involved into the cranial course, meeting Dr. Diamco. So is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll just share a little bit.
And for people, if you don't know, a DO medical school is equivalent to an MD medical school, but they do a lot of more hands-on training, looking at the body as a whole. And so that's why I trained so much after my MD training with the osteopaths, and now I've come full circle and am teaching with the osteopathic physicians as well as other kinds of physicians. So
super integrative and super inspiring all the way around. For me, I think everything starts in childhood. So I think it starts back, with my temperament. Maybe to the chagrin of the people who loved sports in my family, I had a very soft temperament and pretty docile and introspective in general, always wanting to observe things from afar. And then in 6th grade, I discovered a love for the body, and that impassioned my loves for medicine. And so going into college, I started learning about neurobiology, so some of like the harder science. And then at the same time, I was also exploring leadership with a degree in leadership, or a minor in leadership. And that was more of like, a softer science, because it's about the psychology of human beings and how we interact with each other. And I just thought it was fascinating that different minds had different power over other minds. So I was like just constantly straddling the hard and soft ideas in the world. And then after school, after college, I was taking a gap year before med school, and this kind of massage therapy opportunity fell into my lap. So I got massage training in Madison, Wisconsin. It was an 800-hour program.
Wow.
And that was my first experience with physical touch and how you could be so close to another human being, interacting with them, curious about them and their story, and practicing empathy and kind of practicing this power differential that you had in a room with someone, but in a way that was safe. With massage, it's like it has to be very safe, because it's a very vulnerable thing for someone to come in and lay down on your table, and you stand over them and you touch them in what society would say is intimate ways, right?
Yeah.
So we got a lot of training in that, and that really expanded my perspective. Also, a part of that training was we had a lot of Eastern philosophy in that as well. So we learned traditional Chinese medicine and traditional Chinese medical massage, and a little bit of herbology and nutrition aspects that came with that. So I knew I was already weird going into medical school, right? Not like the traditional.
Well, that's a great backdrop to have going into medical school. And to have that anatomy and experience, like interacting with people in very intimate environments as well.
Yes. There's always just so much to learn. And that massage experience helped me make a clear decision that I really wanted osteopathic training, as she was already explaining. So becoming a DO rather than an MD, not that there's anything better or worse with any of them. It just is.
But you like
different.
that hands-on. approach.
I knew that a DO school would have more of the hands-on. They call it osteopathic manipulative medicine.
Mhm.
While I was in DO school, it's medical school, and so there's just so much to learn. And
Mhm.
so I'm so cognitively absorbed with all these new ways of perceiving the body, but still kind of fell out of practice with some of my like intuitive massage beginnings,
Mhm.
roots. So I always knew that I wanted to get back to that. I always knew that I wanted a course in OMM because the training, I think, for OMM and DO schools, don't quote me on this, but I thought it was around like 200 hours, whereas my massage training was 800 hours. So I had a lot more extensive training in body awareness and intuition than what OMM offered me in medical
Wow.
school.
Uh-huh.
So I wanted to take a course. So that's where I kind of got interested in taking an OCA course, which is an osteopathic cranial academy course. And that's where I met Dr. Diamco.
Yes.
So that course was last March. And we'll explore this more, but going through that course, I had left feeling like an integrated part of this field, feeling like an integral part of the physician workforce, feeling like I really got in touch with like what osteopathy is to me, and we'll describe that experience a little bit more too, and just feeling connected to other human beings in general, which was way more than I thought I would get out of that course. And then after meeting Dr. Diamco and how she thinks of the world, I was like, I really want to get more training under her. So that's why I ended up here. And we've been doing this 2-week thing, and I got to do her emotions course. It was called
Sensing and Releasing Emotional Shock.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it was part 1 of a couple different parts, but that's kind of the journey so far.
Yeah. So really, everyone in the course, if they weren't already, got to learn how to perceive the emotional body in a very tangible way, just like we perceive the physical body, and then to learn how to address that, how to tend to it. And these are things that many of you are used to me talking to you about, even one-on-one in appointments, or I've done some other courses and workshops with expanding your perceptual abilities, learning how to read your heart. So it's so neat for me to be able to translate these things that I feel into different languages, whether medical language or to non-medical, and then to see how people integrate it into their lives, into their practice, into their families, and can really expand on it. It's the art of living. It's art of medicine, but it's to me more the art of living.
100%. From a medical student perspective, like I was talking about, being so cognitively absorbed in things, it's really hard for, I think, all schools, like all DO schools, to really train towards the roots of osteopathy. So I would recommend anyone in school who wants to get more in touch with like more of the emotional dimensions and the spiritual dimensions within people to consider just doing more courses in OMM if you feel like you want more of that. We were just talking about this. There's kind of a surprising amount of DOs who actually don't practice any OMM, and that's okay. That's not a good thing or a bad thing. It just is, and even less so that I think get training in cranial osteopathy, because it can mean multiple different things to many people.
What do you feel it was different about like this approach that I'm trying to teach everybody, like with the course, and I know we call this like an experience, medical students experience in stillness. Like what is different about that? Because I like to think about this a lot, because I see ways that we could change medical education. We could change education for even physicians, your after medical training. Like what is the gap? Like what's missing, and how are we helping to fill that in?
I think what Dr. Diamco does best is training in just allowing what is to happen. So she talks a lot about, and there are many ways to say things like this, but being the stillness and coming from the stillness perspective, which is you're not coming in with a judgment. I think it's easy for a lot of practitioners in the healthcare field, especially, and in the physician field for sure, to come in and say, I need to do something, I need to fix you. And that really has this power differential to it, which can feel really kind of icky to a lot of people, and doesn't actually help. And even from the massage, background of things, I always wanted to just like, my intention was always to go in and fix something. And really that's like a little bit intrusive energetically, if you could think about it like that. because maybe they don't need to be fixed in the way that you're thinking you need to fix them. So first things first is leading with two things, which is humility and curiosity with any patient. And I think you and your practice and the osteopathy that Dr. Diamco practices really exemplifies that, is curiosity and humility, because you approach the patient and they're in front of you and you just ask the stillness, or however you want to talk about it, the oneness, the universe, God, the world. You ask, where are they? What do they need? How can I help? But even that gets into the helper's mindset too, like the helper fixer mindset. So you're just always constantly grounding, centering, and asking the stillness to show you what is.
Yeah, this is a mindset shift.
Yes.
However, I don't even think of these things that I'm teaching. This is what I live day to day in my practice, but to me, it's not mine. It's from the beginning of time. It's what is written in like so much of literature that talks about anything that talks about like oneness or Zen or this universal love. So this is in any writing that makes you feel really good about yourself and makes your heart expand. This is what we are really bringing into medicine, into osteopathy. And that mindset shift is important for both physician and patient, for any person, where it's not this idea that there's something about you that needs to be fixed. You are already whole as you are. You're already this amazing, beautiful being of light and love, a child of the universe. And so you're already completely embraced and loved as you are. That doesn't mean you don't change, because that is the universal truth that everything changes. And actually, things can change more efficiently when you embrace yourself as you are, because then you are grounded here in this present moment, knowing that you can be anything. You have so much potency. And so you can ground in this, what we call the stillness, which is the oneness, which is the universe, which is this nest of love all around you. And from there, you can grow into and be whatever you would like to be. So it takes you out of this fixing mindset. So whether you have that for yourself or another person, even when you're helping another person, and then also takes you out of the hero victim mindset. So victim meaning like everything is happening to me and I can't do anything about it. Or hero complex, where which is really common for physicians or any other caretakers, where I will come in and save you and fix you. And but you see that mindset, hero victim, it means that there's something wrong with you as you are. It doesn't mean that you don't have symptoms, but perhaps those symptoms are a way that your being is trying to express itself. And expressing who you are is not, there's nothing wrong with that. And so it's learning how to interpret what those messages mean. And once you learn how to do that, you really step into the ease and health of living. And so if you do have any issues, medical issues, like this is how you step into the ease of being able to tend to them and address them. So I just wanted to take a moment to explain that, because it's so much a core foundation of this course, of the way I practice, but really of living for anyone to step into that flow of living.
What Dr. Diamco says a lot that helps me, the ease is in the flow, healing is in the flow. So even taking it further and explaining more of her teaching is like, in medical school, Western medicine has, this kind of cliche behind it of being very physicalized, very materialized, right? But we're very complex human beings. We're not just like these complex machines that you can tweak and then just like kind of put back on the street, like once you remove a part from surgery or something like that. So it is important to just understand how complex we are in every single dimension of our being, which is our emotions, and it affects our mental moods and everything, which affects our physicality. And our spirit is behind all of that too. So the connectedness, I think you really embody.
I'd like to just like kind of even tease it apart a little bit more. Like how were you able to like step into that feeling of stillness, of oneness? Like, because we talk about this all the time and we talk about this in healing, but even the most seasoned practitioners can have trouble like being in that space, being in that feeling of stillness and oneness. So like how, to you, like what helped you be in that?
Yeah, in my experience, I think always leading with humility. And Dr. Giamco will mention things like a beginner's mindset. And in early on in medical school, you learn like this is a lifelong journey of learning. Like you have to be a lifelong learner. And so embracing that, I guess, with humility, because there's obviously always going to be times where you don't know things. And so that's when it's helpful to take a step back and ask, or even say, I don't know what I'm doing. And communicate with those around you. You know, like good emotional intelligence is always very helpful in those situations too, in medicine. And communicate from that place of humility. Like, let's just start at ground zero. We don't know.
Well, that beginner's mindset leaves so much room for growth, for learning. As soon as you say, I already know how to do that, it closes things down to growth and learning. So no matter how much you know, then, I mean, for me, like the more I learn, the more I realize I don't know. And I don't mind feeling like that because it leaves the universe open for me, my experience of it, it leaves it open to miracles, because miracles are things that you don't understand fully. And if you're open to things happening, unfolding in a way that maybe you don't understand completely, and how could we possibly understand the whole entire universe fully, universes, you know? So it's to have that, the wisdom to know that you don't have know it all.
Yeah. And then after that, after you start from that kind of ground zero, then you kind of can offer trust too. Like you trust yourself and your development and your experience and how you've, you know, what you've worked with in your life, thinking about your childhood and everything that you built through and built resilience through, to get past all these hard things. Like we all have incredibly hard lives, and trusting ourselves and then trusting others, or like, you know, really the connectedness between people, the power of consciousness behind things, is the kind of the next step, I would say, of going. That's been important for me.
Okay.
Do you feel that too?
Yeah.
Some of the trusting
absolutely.
elements? Yeah. Which also goes back into humility, because you have to trust, okay, I don't know what that means, but I'm just going to keep going.
Trust in so many ways. I mean, sometimes I'll give people an image. It's like, just take whatever it is you're dealing with or holding on to, just take it. And since you might have that sense of holding on, go ahead and hold on to it. And then open your hand up and palm up, let it go to the universe with so much trust that you know that things are taken care of. You will be still an active participant. It doesn't mean you're passive. It doesn't mean we just sit on the couch and watch life happen. It means that we put the trust and know that we will be guided as to what steps to take at any given moment.
Got it. Yeah. Yeah. So being able to practice these truths has been amazing here. That I just have full gratitude.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot in the medical journey. I think that if any students were ever listening to this, I just want to give encouragement, right? Because your minds are taking in so much. It's the fire hose analogy. Like you're just going to feel like you're drinking out of a fire hose for 4 years straight. And that's incredibly true. There were moments in my journey where I looked back and I felt regret for going into the path, which is kind of sad, but it's a really tough path. It's, you know, like so much pressure on a rock, you know, eventually creates a diamond. So, you know.
Well, you have a little one too.
Yeah. I have a little 15-month-old, which gives it's a whole nother conversation of like how much perspective and joy that can bring into a world as well. Getting me outside of my, you know, like cynical mindset that's so easy for our brains to go down, I think. When you see a child and the joy that they just create and just like the randomness of inspiration that they have, it's just one of the more fascinating things to me in life. So I try to pull from that in some of my practice too with patients, which goes back to how Dr. Diamco says, beginner's mind, kind of acting like a child, like not in an immature way, but bringing that child mentality, like we're all children of the universe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, do you have any other tips of, since you're in the middle of it, it's like, I just remember when I was growing up that, certain things would happen to you, maybe a teacher or a parent or someone would say something to you. And then I would just mentally make a note, like, when I grow up, this is how I'm going to be, so now you're still in it, like, so, because very soon you'll come full circle too, and then you're going to be helping teach like the next generation. So if you were to give just some tips, suggestions of like, what can we do to help shape medical education in a more conscious way, where we can get a lot more depth and efficiency out of treatments, what things could shift, and what, like
a true genuine emphasis, as I talked about previously, curiosity, humility, curiosity, humility, curiosity, humility. When you're looking at a research paper, curiosity, humility. If you have this thought of like, oh, that's bogus science, that's bogus anything, curiosity, humility. If something happens in a patient, you don't fully understand it, there's lots going on, curiosity, humility. I think that could be drilled. Not only drilled is kind of an aggressive word, I guess, to use, but it can be seeped through all of medical education. And I think we can do that by having doctors grow in their own self-awareness, in their own journey of self-discovery and self-inquiry. Being able to be rooted, grounded, and centered in our field is a challenge, I think, to a lot of people. But those who are and feel comfortable with it and giving back and educating in that way, if you feel like you have the educator's servant heart, definitely getting back involved with students in some way. We're kind of always crying for help. I know we're all like type A going into med school, and we're all like, I can do this myself. I have so much resilience that I built. Whatever. We all need help.
I like how you like just kind of put it in that nutshell, like curiosity and humility. And if you approached anything in life with those two huge concepts, that would carry you far.
And the last thing I'll mention, just in students in general, the ease. The ease is in the flow, the healing is in the flow. So when it's the most stressful time in medical school specifically, just come back to the ease. What do I love doing? What makes me in a flow state? Being with family, music, art, creativity, being in nature, just all of the ease, laughing with people, like social connectedness. It's just all so easy. Like, it's easy to be a human being, but it's also incredibly hard to be a human being. So when you find yourself off of your track, it was always helpful for me to kind of just return and always know. I had this deep knowing in my body of like, what's easy to me. And I think all of us have that deep knowing in our bodies. So returning to the ease.
I love that. Well, thank you, Carter.
Thank you.
It's really great to have you here. And I'm so glad we had this opportunity to chat and share a bit more with everyone, because you get like that sneak peek from behind the scenes of what it's like to learn as a medical student, and how we can expand on these really deep concepts and bring them into a tangible practice as well. So. For sure. Appreciate you being here and sharing with all of us.
So. And any story sharing, I just hope that someone found meaning or importance from it. So thank you all.
Thanks everyone for watching and listening. If you have any comments, please feel free to leave any, and we would be happy to get back to you. If you would like to connect with me further, you can also find me on Instagram at All Worlds Health, Facebook, All Worlds Health and Pediatrics, and on my website, allworldshealth.com. You can always sign up for my e-love letters. I send them out once a week on Wednesdays. And if you are a physician and would like to learn more about the Dig On series, you can go to thedigonseries.com, and we'd be happy to be in touch with you. So thank you so much. I'll see you next week, 11 a.m. Eastern Time.
Thank you.